need to turn my phone.
And then just a reminder, if you haven't turned on your microphones, please do so. Roll call, please.
Trustee Polly,
Here.
trustee Lappin. Are you gonna say excuse?
Excuse absence.
Clerk Palovich here, treasurer Ellery Summers,
Here.
trustee Kroll,
Here.
trustee Reiner,
Here.
supervisor Skibby.
Here. Moving forward to the adoption of the agenda. There is one addition to the agenda. I set an independent piece of paper, Charter Township of Alpena conflict of interest and ethics policies. That would be an addition to new business item number 6. With that being said, are there any other additions, corrections, or substitutions to the agenda as presented? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the amended agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion on the table to adopt the amended agenda. Is there support? Support. It's been moved and supported. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting the amended agenda signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, the same. This is the first opportunity for public comment. If you have public comment, please stand to the podium. Whoever is first, if you could press the power button on the microphone until the light turns green. State your name for the record. We do not need your address, just the name. Limit yourself to 3 minutes. The floor is open. Okay.
Hirschenberger. I live on Partridge Point. And some neighbors, and some of them are here, and us got together and we put a letter together with signatures, and that's reflected in your correspondence. I turned them into Mr. Skibby. And it affects the Partridge Point Park, so-called. It is part of the DNR property that the South Bay Association, I guess that's what they call themselves today. They morph from different names, South Bay Corridor and whatever. It's something that they, against our wishes, instituted out on Partridge Point. It was a nature area, and now all we have is parties, drug needles, loud noises, people racing up and down the roads. It's morphed into something that is totally unacceptable for our residential area. And we're asking the board to please let them know, at least let they wanted to put a sign on 23. And I understand they wanted you guys to pay for it and you denied them. Well, good for you. We do not want that sign on 23. We already have enough problems the way things are. We do not need any more advertising and all these problems being blown up in more than we can handle even at this point. The general consensus of the people on Partridge Point is take the darn thing out. We do not want it there. We do not need it there. There's been fire said. What does that do? What does it do to our property values in the long run? What does it do to the nature area? When we first moved up here to Alpena, I was on the zoning board and the DNR had declared this an ecologically sensitive area. What's ecologically sensitive about parties, drugs, vandalism, alcohol, and just to name a few of the things that's going on there. Please stop these people. It is against anything that we hold dear to our nature, to our area. We just want it to stop. They have promised that they're going to keep the area clean. They're advertising that in March, they dragged out 30 pounds of garbage. In April, they dragged out another 30 pounds of garbage. Really? 30 pounds of garbage in a month? And this has been going on and on and on. I've heard some comments of people saying last year, during the 4th of July, they were shooting up fireworks there. That's not appropriate for an area there where there's eagles nesting and we have other things going on that are proper to nature, but not to their misuse of the property. One of the latest things that's been happening also, that the drag racing now is on the South Partridge Point area of the peninsula, is a dirt road. They love to do donuts out there. They love to drag race out there. The other morning, there was a car in the ditch where the police had to hold up the school bus because they had 2 big records out there, you know, trying to get the guy out of the ditch. So please listen to the people of Alpena Township and Partridge Point. We appreciate your concern.
Thank you for your comment, Ms. Hirschberg. Anyone else for public comment?
Hi, my name is Al Wargo, and I've lived on Partridge Point now for 40 years. Long time. I remember when there's hardly any houses in the inner part of Partridge Point. And we've been going out, I've been going out to that point for them 40 years, steady, walk the dog and all that. I don't go out there anymore. You can't take it. You can't take the needles and you know, the condoms. They're all over out there. It's just horrible. Yeah, it's been better the last few days because they've had the police patrolling it and that. That's not the sheriff's job. Come on, you shouldn't have to be down there patrolling parks for people that can't take care of anything. And now me and my buddy over there, we walk around that point practically every morning for our walk. Now, 2 days ago, I found 9 needles on my walk, 9. So, and I'll tell you, they didn't come from people that live on the road. They wouldn't throw their needles on the road, would they? They're coming from that park. And it's just, well, I want it shut down. It should be shut down immediately. If you take a drive out there and look where they're running off the roads. And the traffic is practically doubled on our road. I walk it every day. I know the traffic. And it's all day and all night long. And we've asked these people to put up a gate, to lock the gate at night. They said, well, who's going to unlock it and unlock it? Well, who put it in there? Well, I didn't. You know, who's going to unlock and unlock? That was their, come on. That's just been a nice spot for the neighborhood. You're ruining our neighborhood, and that's why we're here. We don't want our neighborhood ruined. And somebody's going to get hurt on our road. I guarantee you, there's going to be a dog run over, and there's going to be, God forbid, it's not a kid, one of somebody's grandkids. That's what's going to happen because they're doubling the speed limit when they're going by my house. And if they hit my dog, there's going to be somebody who's going to pay dearly. I mean, I'm really upset about this. And that park's got to go. It doesn't, no other options. Close it down, take it somewhere else. Go out on Bear Point. Them are the people that seem to be all for it. Why don't you put it on there? See how they like their traffic speeders and double the traffic. You see what it does in their neighborhood. Just ruin our neighborhood and it's got to stop.
Thank you very much for your comments, Mr. Wargo. Are there any other? Yes, Mr. Rich.
Hi, Russ Rich. I've lived out on Partridge Point for about 36 years now. And it used to be a really enjoyable, really nice place out there. Nowadays, we have cars racing up and down the roads, cars running off the road. My wife and granddaughter nearly got hit the other day with a car that overshot his destination. Like Al said, I walk around the point most every day too, and the needles that are laying everywhere, the fast food wrappers, the beer and alcohol containers are just being thrown out all up and down our road. I meant to bring, I had a little jug of the needles I've been picking up every time I walk around because I think it was a year or so ago. Oh, she brought them already. That's what I find every morning when I walk around Partridge Point Road. I think it was about a year ago now, one of the doctors that lives out there took her dogs for a walk down on the end of the point, and the dogs ingested drugs and had to be treated at the vets. The fires that escaped, they have bonfires down there several times now. The fires have gotten out of control and neighbors have had to go help extinguish it before the woods and our houses get burnt down. So I don't know what your power is or what authority you have over the park. I can't get the DNR to return my phone calls. Somebody has to do something. The South Corridor Group, they aren't willing to do anything. The DNR isn't returning phone calls to us. So here we are coming to you folks, hoping that you can do something about it before, like Al said, before one of our grandkids get hit with a car or something. So whatever you can do to help us would be appreciated. All right? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, Mr. Rich. And don't forget your jug of needles. Do you need a location to drop those off safely, sir? Okay. Are there any other public comments? As I had aforementioned before the start of the meeting, if there's any other questions that you would have for the board, there's proper ways to contact us and we can have those additional conversation. But this is the opportunity for the record. If you have any public comment, please stand to the microphone.
My name's Gary Toohey. I also live on Partridge Point. I couldn't agree more when my neighbors spoke. I really wanted to add to that. Other than it's blatantly obvious, if you live there and in the yard, who lives there, drives by, is going 35, maybe 40, the limit's 35. And the kids are racing down the road 70 miles an hour, trying to get to that park to use drugs, drink, fill up, rub condoms. I mean, it's changed dramatically. And I don't think anybody that's running the South Bay corridor, which was initially what I think it was called, South 23 corridor, morphed into this park on the end of the point. All we read, all any of us can remember reading in the published paper, was how they wanted to put a small park, which this is, maybe a picnic table or a viewing area at the 45th parallel where it crossed 23. And somehow they're 2 miles out down to the end of the point. And it didn't happen. I doubt that anybody on that board, the South 23 Improvement Corridor, would want this park on their road. Said my piece.
Thank you very much for your comments, sir. Are there any additional public comment? Seeing none, is there any public comment on online? If so, please raise your hand and ask to be unmuted. Again, this is a public comment opportunity. If there's anybody online that has any public comment, please raise your hand so that we can unmute you and have you on the record. Seeing none, we'll move forward with the agenda. We're to payment of the bills. Is there a motion to make payment of bills?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion on the table to make payment of bills. Is there support?
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, oh, roll call, please, sir.
Clerk Palovich, yes. Treasurer Ellery Summers,
yes,
Trustee Kroll,
yes,
Trustee Reiner,
Yes.
Trustee Polly,
Yes.
Supervisor Skibby.
Yes. Moving forward to the minutes of April 26, 2021, which was a regular scheduled meeting. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes of April 26?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion on the table to approve the minutes of April 26. Is there support?
Supported.
It's been moved and supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of adopting the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Minutes approved. Moving forward to correspondence. Obviously, letter F in correspondence is what has brought a large contingent of our public here today. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to be here. Do we have a motion to receive and file the correspondence as presented?
I'll make that motion.
We have motion and support. Any further discussion?
Was it supported by Norma, Russ?
The only discussion I have, I was gonna save it for discussion, but I can just say right now, I'm appreciative of the folks coming from the neighborhood. Since I've been endowed with the responsibility of being liaison to the south corner, they will surely get copies of that correspondence, and they will get the concerns that were raised here today from me. And one of the things that I will discuss specifically is one of the points that's been made. How does that park tie into the South Bay approval? So we'll have that discussion. I'm not sure what the DNR's part in this is, but I'll find that out.
Thank you very much for your discussion. I can get you in touch with the individual that's in charge of the properties for MDNR. We have a motion and support on correspondence. Any additional conversation or discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of receiving and filing the correspondence as presented signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, the same. Moving forward into old business. Fire department update. Chief, do you have anything to add?
I just have the, very briefly, run totals for the month of April for Township Fire Department includes 27 medicals, 4 fires, 4 personal injury accidents, 1 false alarm, one grass fire, 1 hazmat incident. I'm showing on there listed 20 service calls. And just preemptively, I want to explain to the board, if anybody's keeping track of these, you'll see since the first of the year, we've had an increase in the number of service calls versus medicals. And that quite simply is the fact that the closer in medical first response calls we do. If it's any more than a minute or two until the ALS crew shows up, that is listed as a person in distress or service call, in as much as that our EMS tracking system will not allow us to enter that as a medical call unless we have actually done the preemptive basic life support skills on that. And that's why you're seeing a increase in that number. But those are the numbers for the month of April. Did you guys want the update on the hiring process now, or do that later?
We're condensed, and this is your opportunity for update on whether.
Okay,
fire engine or-
Very good. Okay, I'll get to that. We did conclude the Zoom or virtual interviews with 3 candidates in the past several weeks, and they are scheduled to continue on with face-to-face interviews. 2 of them will be this Friday, and the 3rd on Monday. We'll be here at the township for face-to-face interviews. So we're proceeding along those lines. So far, we're pretty happy with the candidates we've gotten. Also to update, I just returned late last night from Nebraska I came from the Schmiel factory. I did the final acceptance inspection for our new engine. And I'll just be brief and say I am very happy with it. And I just hope that when we're able to get it up here, I hope as well that the board approves of the purchase. I think it was money wisely spent, and I'm really sure that the taxpayers of the township are going to be very happy with this unit. It's got some good bones. It was well built. So that was concluded. So that's what I have for that.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Regarding the medical versus service calls, is it because we're using different software or something that we have to code them differently?
No, we're using the same software, Michelle. Is what it boils down to is if we're getting there anywhere from 2, 3, 4 minutes ahead of time to 5, 10 minutes ahead of time, ahead of the ALS rig from City Fire, then we're able to do a complete set of vitals, evaluation, et cetera. That goes on our field card that we then bring back to the station. Then we get into the mobile touch and log that as an actual medical call. That particular reporting system, if we don't have our own set of base vitals and evaluation, it won't accept it as a run. And I've cautioned, agree or disagree, but I've cautioned my guys against using other people's field notes for their, in other words, I don't want them using, if the city medics roll up just, seconds behind them or whatever, I don't want them using city medic treatment as their
notes?
as their notes.
Okay,
And that's why you're seeing the increase in the service
because
calls.
previously we did use the city's information.
No.
I guess I'm
Didn't
still not
want 'em to, but
understanding
we
why
were
it's gone
having,
up.
when we were doing the non-emergent transports,
Okay,
I think also I asked to do that because we were, even on non-emergent transports,
okay,
we were obligated to do, basic set of vitals when we picked them up and took them in
Okay.
our facility and stuff like that. So
Any questions for?
I'm still confused about that, but I'm not sure how important it is.
you're right. I'm still not completely clear either, but
what?
It
What's that,
sounds
Mr.
like
Ray?
we've changed our methodology and how we
report it.
record the report.
I don't know, Dave, is that what it is, or is it something different than that?
Well, the difference in as responding before as we were in the ambulances, and we're seeing increase in runs where we may use a supplemental non-transport apparatus. I'm sorry, Russ, just the total overall total drop in calls because we've cut the non-emergent transport service. We've seen a very dramatic downturn in those type of runs.
Right.
To address your question, I guess I wouldn't argue that so much as far as changing our methodology, as far as just, I wanted to be sure the guys were staying on task and not trying to take shortcuts in the field, so to speak. For instance, if we walk in as a BLS crew and the ALS crew comes in behind and they haven't initiated vitals yet, I don't want them using another crew's reporting information for that run.
In other words,
Trying to clean
duplicating.
it. Correct. So, does
So-
that help?
So, because we could go on and on, but, so in regards to that, you're given the scenario where you're the first responder. What happens when Alpha unit beats you to a scene? Do you still count it as a service call?
Correct. Because
So,
we, at
then
that
it would
point,
be-
at that
It'd
point,
be
they,
counterintuitive then to do vitals if Alpha unit and their crew is already doing those, to do them for duplicity's sake at that point. I guess that's part of my confusion.
well, to be more to the point, you're correct, and that's where you've seen the upturn too, because in the instance of the close in runs in the more I'll say rural, or I'm sorry, urban area of Alpena, where we have very same or similar arrival times. If you're tracking on 911, will be no more than a minute apart, so anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute apart. And on a lot of those close in calls, we're getting there about the same time. The difference is going to be in the out county calls where we have longer travel distances, and we get there anywhere from a minute to sometimes several minutes before the city crew can make that transit out there.
Any other questions for Chief? If not, thank you for that update. I'll also, and Russ, please, if you would, give a quick little update as to the fire committee that consists of trustee Reinhardt, trustee Lappin, and myself. Sat down recently with Rachel Smolinski, city manager, Matt Walagora, mayor, and Chief Forbush, to just start the conversation of what the potentials and clarification points of a contract would look like. So that is ongoing. We're hopefully going to be having something that will be coming from our labor attorney that will be, and I've instructed her to email the entire board all draft contract so that everybody's apprised as we continue to move forward in those discussions. Mr. Reinhardt, is there anything that you'd like to add?
No, those were helpful discussions. Obviously, there's some things that need to be discussed and negotiated.
Yes, trustee
When
Bowles.
do you anticipate this being done?
I'm hoping that at least we can get a rough draft for board's consumption. I'd hope this maybe later this week. Our labor attorney, Ms. Mills, just recently got back from a vacation stint. And as per the conversation I had with her yesterday, she will do everything in her power to get everything kind of mocked up as a rough draft and emailed to the entire board.
So what is the next step after that?
The next step after that would be upon any internal comment would be fine tuning that and submitting it to the city and continuing conversation.
When does the full board get to do any?
I imagine that we will be on our agenda for May 26th or 24th, is
I
that
think it's the 24th.
24th? I'd imagine that we'll definitely have thorough discussion at that point, whether or not that brings any conclusion, but discussion will be had at our subsequent meeting. Any other questions as to the start of that process? Trustee Kroll, Treasurer Ellery Summers, do you have any questions?
No questions.
No question. Thank you.
Not a problem. Moving forward to the second item of old business.
I believe you're talking about the request for promotion.
That
was
was
tabled?
Yes.
You can keep me in the white lines here, Michelle, if I wander out, but my recollection of the last meeting is what I presented to the board were Christopher's qualifications and certifications. However, in the packet at the end, I had included was a job description
Mhm.
and didn't include the department minimum requirements for that particular.
Actually, we just got the memo at the last meeting. It didn't have the job description. And I did not include in the packet all of Chris's certificates, but I do have them. So if anybody wants to see them. So that's why we tabled it, because we didn't have anything but your memo at the last meeting.
Okay, you have received it.
Everybody got a copy of the job description and your
Okay.
memo. The certificates, which I will verify, he did meet all those qualifications. However, Chief, when you look at the job description, one of the minimum requirements for it are 5 years experience,
2 years as a lieutenant.
And two, must be 2 years as a rank of lieutenant, of lieutenant. He has to have 2 years that must be as a lieutenant. He became a lieutenant when he was hired here,
Yes.
and that
At-
was August of 2019, so he's not
so it
even
made him not
eligible.
Till August.
He's not eligible until August. This is kind of like why I wanted to have a sheet with all the qualifications that we could do a checklist on to make sure before it gets to the board that all qualifications are met.
So given the consideration that Mr. Stevens is not eligible for said promotion, we can, without need of tabling, we can revisit that
Once he's
at
qualified,
earliest.
What date now?
August 3rd.
August.
So we could have it on the agenda for the first meeting.
in August.
The Tuesday
Okay.
meeting in August. Correct.
Okay,
And it's from Dave.
and what is this in regards to, Chief?
This is not for, this is for future consideration for promotion. As in the past, as we discussed in both, I don't want to say private, but the meetings between us and then the meetings in the ad hoc committee and talks in the board, there's been a drastic, I don't want to say drastic as dramatical, but a very huge shift in the way that we'll be promoting within the department and in the future. And what I've included is if we were using, there should be one sheet, if we're using current criteria of the other 3 full-time employees where they would stand from a union standpoint as far as seniority points and seniority points only. That isn't factoring in anything else, any other considerations. And the other one is a draft for language for you guys to consider in the future to set down and negotiate with the union, talk amongst yourselves and come up with a ironclad promotional process that we can follow step by step in the future. So this is what I've handed out as for consideration. So to start the discussion, so to speak.
Okay, so this sheet would be the start to the promotional process.
Yeah, promotional opportunities posted.
We'll submit this to Personnel Committee for review. Okay. Are there any other additional comments for Robbins? Yes, Trustee Foley.
I just got a little bit of a problem, maybe it's me, but here we're talking about promotions and promoting people. We're talking about hiring people. Have we received a plan for how everything's gonna come together yet? For this fire department?
Well, as the board just discussed that, I mean, we are hugely in flux in this department as to whether we're going to continue another 3 to 6 months under the current contract we have with the city or whatever the board's wishes are toward the end of June, whether to go through with a merger completely. So, but quite simply, my plan right now is to staff the department back to its former capacity in as much as that we can just simply operate the two different stations, north and south with full-time contingent, and then continuing to recruit paid on calls.
So to go to Trustee Foley's question was, and I don't know if we really heard an answer besides just staffing. I think, and clarify, please, Trustee Foley. He's asking, because we've seen internal memos with reformations of rank and different varying significance, is there an actual formation of a plan? Because the ad hoc worked incredibly diligently. And that brought forward what should be hired as 7 to 9 people, but the structure was never really discussed. And now the structure is in a state of flux. What are the options so that we can properly discuss it? Because every time Michelle gets a memo with whether it's a docket of paid on call or staff, of which there's some concerns to that list as well. That I don't know if you even want to touch on that right now.
I have it in my pile to go over with you on Thursday.
Okay, so we'll talk about that on Thursday, but there's clarification I think that the board is looking for is what if it is an option, what does that option look like? Not just it's a hard process, but not just to hire and go back to the way things were. I think that's, am I kind of fine tuning that?
Would think so.
So so be prepared. I mean, that's what we're looking for. I know that your option is just to staff, but what is the structure? And I think that's what the discussion is, what's being asked. So. Oh, yes, Treasurer Ellery Summers, question for Chief?
I just wanted to say for clarification, I mean, the word merger should not be used. I mean, it would be a contract for services with the city, not a merger, or we're going to restructure our fire department. And I do think we need to get down to the nitty gritty to compare what the supervisor and trustee Reinhardt and trustee Lappin are going to be clarifying from the city contract, and we have something to compare that to as far as restructuring with our fire department. So I think a plan needs to be worked up with, trustee Kroll had come up with a plan of, X amount of firefighters and staff and how many lieutenants and captains and that type of thing. Just so we can compare the two options. Thank you.
Thank you for those words. Cash, do you have anything to add in this conversation before?
Yeah, I think we need to, obviously, we need to develop a plan on our structure if we're willing to go whatever route it is. But maybe that's something that the chief could work on, and there also has to be some buy-in from the board, what direction we want to go. So I guess I'm not sure how we do that, but something we definitely need to look at soon.
Okay. Thank you very much for your comments, trustee Kroll. Any other discussion?
I have nothing to add.
Okay, then moving forward with the business, new business, that is, still in the fire department. Laura, since we do have you, do you want to take point in terms of conversation of the financing options, or do you want us to do it with the paperwork in front of us?
I'll just say, and you guys can finish, I don't have my paperwork right in front of me, but I did include quite a lengthy packet. I did contact several, like all of the local financial institutions, and the interest rates are included in the list. When we purchased the ambulances, we did go to LP Nelcona Credit Union, and they're very familiar with the agreement that we have to, the installment purchase contract that we have to do. So anyway, you guys can expand on the rest of that if you'd like. But these are all of the financial institutions I did hear back from.
I have a question of Laura.
Well, by all means, sir.
Laura, in looking at those financing options, correct me if I'm wrong. It looked to me like the Alpena Alcona Area Credit Union had the best terms for our financing of our purchase. You agree?
I think-
Or was there another one that was close? I think there was another one.
Northland was very close.
Northland as well.
Right. Northland would do a, what did it say? A one
Single pay
Single
note.
payment.
single, yeah. And Alpena Alcona is very familiar with this process. Because our attorney, Tim Golden, had worked with them before. They know the process. They were great to work with before. I would recommend Alpena Alcona.
Is that a monthly payment or a one-time payment?
It would be, we collected on the 2019 winter taxes, the lump that is in our account. And then we are financing the remainder of that 200 and some, I don't have the number right in front of me. Michelle probably does. So the total amount was 500 and some thousand. I don't, like I said, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but we're only going to finance that amount through next April.
208.
We'll pay that off because we're going to collect that money on this year's winter taxes.
But my question for you, I guess, is to make it plainer is, on a cash flow basis, which one is the better for the town? You know, are they both a single payment when we collect the?
They're both single payments. I don't really know if I'd say one is better than the other. I just know Alpena Alcona has worked with us before with the ambulances.
Well, then there was a minor difference in interest rate.
Correct.
I can add something too.
By all means.
And what Laura's alluding to is the value of the experience in this field is definitely important in that Alpena Alcona Area Credit Union went through this, and I had to kind of direct traffic there because township can't borrow money for the purchase, can enter installment contracts. We need to assign the contract from the dealer, the seller, to the credit union, and so there was a learning curve, and they've got the template, and they ended up hiring the local attorney, which I kept asking them to do, and they did, and he that boy accomplished it well, and so we had a smooth ending to our that whole process, and so I'm anticipating a very smooth ride this next go round. And I'll give them the documents from the previous one and say, this is what we expect.
And
So-
even when we went to pay it off, we paid it off early to save more interest. I mean, they were a pleasure to work with.
Well, with that being said, is there, we have a recommendation from the treasurer to go with Alpena Alcona Area Credit Union at an interest rate of 2% fixed to finance the amount of $208,014.23. Is there a motion to that effect?
I'll make that into a motion.
We have a motion to move forward with the utilization of Alpena Alcona Area Credit Union for a 2% fixed rate of finance of $208,014.23. Is there support?
Yes.
It's been moved and supported. Further discussion?
I guess I want to clarify, this is a piece of equipment that no matter what decision is made in regard to the future services for fire, and particularly for fire in this case, that this equipment would be utilized no matter what options we select.
Correct.
This would be an important piece of equipment for,
Yes.
the township to have and provide for that. That's my understanding. We
Yeah.
all
And
understand
it's
that?
Yes, this is a purchase for the township, by the township, for the township, so to speak. Will remain township apparatus, so
It will always be owned by
it
the
will
town.
always be owned by the township.
And it's
The most
purchased
amount
out of,
We have facilities that will carry, that will house it.
It was ordered to fit our
North side.
facilities.
All right,
Yes,
thank you.
and it's paid for out of the equipment millage.
yes.
I understand that, but it was
Okay.
the question of, although we may not need the ambulances we have, we do need this piece of equipment. I
We
think
get-
is a great
I need to add one more thing too, if
Yes.
I may. The applicable statute requires the board to adopt a resolution, so I'll prepare that for the next meeting. And I'll get that to Laura, and it'll include details regarding the terms of the purchase
And then that'll officially authorize you under the statute to proceed.
Okay, so we shouldn't do a resolution today then,
No,
the
no,
motion we've,
no, I needed the details, regard specifics for the resolution. I can do that in the meantime, but today you're doing your motion to choose the credit union to pursue a purchase through that
All
agency.
right.
So what
then-
would our exact wording on our motion be then?
Now you're really pressing.
Yeah. Want to get this right, Tim?
Motion to authorize the treasurer to contact this credit union
Okay,
regarding pursuing an installment purchase
Contract.
of the SMEAL custom top mount rescue pump.
okay.
And we have the language of the motion.
And it was, that was,
Made by
the motion was made by Treasurer Ellery Summers and it was supported by Trustee Reiner.
Treasurer Ellery Summers. Are you open to the friendly amendment to your original motion?
Yes.
And
As am
to,
I.
as to the second. Okay, we have a friendly amendment. That's good synergy. Keep that going. Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Reiner,
Yes.
Trustee Polly,
Yes.
Clerk Palovich, yes. Treasurer Ellery Summers,
Yes.
Trustee Kroll,
Yes.
Supervisor Skibby.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much, Chief. Is Tango going to be making it down the road today?
Yeah.
Yeah, copy. Moving forward, yes. Okay,
Thank you.
We are now down a trustee. 47 now. Moving forward with the agenda, next item is the F&B operations in regards to recommendation for our booster pump station, which is located on M32 West. Its primary function is providing service to CRTC. These are a recommendation to utilize the UIS SCADA, which was one of the two quotes that came in, third quote from Southwestern Michigan. They've never returned calls. So given the consideration that the archaic nature of the T1 telephone line is no longer in function and was terminated by the telephone provider, this is a communications gap that we have with monitoring flows and pressures. And it is a recommendation of our operator in charge, Catherine Nguyen, to move forward with the UIS SCADA quote, which is to the cost of $39,975. And that also includes the annual cellular and remote access programming mechanism, so that all field employees will have the ability to remote monitor that pump station. I don't see, Ms. Nguyen, you are on. If you have anything to add that I may have missed, by all means, ma'am, please address the board appropriately.
No, I have nothing to add, but I'm open to questions.
Do you have any questions from the trustees in regarding this improvement?
I don't want to get into too much technicality here, but what would be the potential for loss of that communication? You know, is it a power outage? Would it be a,
We have redundancy with the generator. It has an automatic switch at that station. Those concerns have already been addressed. So in terms of that redundancy, it's been taken care of.
are these two companies that made proposals, are they both independent of F&B? Is there any?
They are both independent of F&V. They have no ties to F&V whatsoever.
The recommendation is the SCADA, UAS SCADA, is that?
Correct.
Understand?
And the recommendation comes both, I believe that the Suez City plant utilizes Tempest, but through this process, the communication barrier was really the tie break. They have a very skeleton crew and weren't very timely. And so that kind of threw a red flag of the reason that we need this is for emergency monitoring. And if we can't have proper communication in a real world scenario, we should give consideration to that.
But this is not just communication that we're buying here.
This is panels. I mean, this is everything in this packet. This is a, and Ms. Nguyen, would you like to give a brief synopsis of this process?
Yes, basically the electronic controls for the pumps that are in there have passed their useful life. And of course, this is a water system, so there's a lot of condensation and other corrosive elements to the environment that they've been subjected to. So we're seeing failures in the pump controls. Obviously, this is of concern not just for the CRTC, but for any users that are on the line between the booster pump station and the CRTC. And so the controls would be to replace the pump controls that regulate the pump speed, to have the ability to alternate the pumps, which right now that ability has been lost, so that one pump is basically running continually. And of course, there's a concern about redundancy for the pressure monitoring, which is of concern in regard to pressure fluctuations in that line that could not only cause inconvenience to people, but could also damage the line if there are pressure spikes in that line. And then also to have this piece of communication. The UIS system, they are very careful in regard to how that is accessed. It is not like you've read probably in the news about other water systems getting hacked and et cetera. And that's a lot of times because they're not maintained and updated. So their proposal includes service that would be meant to make sure that everything was up to date and therefore safeguarded as much as possible from hacking. And that it would be basically a read-only access so that they're not programming changes that would be made by someone entering from outside. And then also that, you know, in the event of an emergency, as Mr. Skibby said, there is a generator there, so there is backup power. And then the cellular part of that is about $300 per year, which is very reasonable. I know the township has some cellular capabilities with AT&T, but you know, I feel that the cost is pretty minimal in regard to the level of service that would be provided on an ongoing basis, and that would then be you know, able to link better with UIS as far as their upkeep and control of the system.
Laura, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wonder, is this cost within scope or out of scope?
This cost would be totally separate from F&V. This is a capital purchase by the township.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
This station also will provide, if I understood correctly, Catherine, the service to the new country.
I can answer. Yes, you are correct. It also provides, so this station is located immediately to the west of Don's Ford Tractor on M32 West. It provides constant flows for all the residential and commercial use end users off of that transition main. I believe somewhere to the neighborhood of 25. But yes, you are correct in that statement. It provides services to the jail. It provides services to now the new morgue. And then its end user is CRTC with their loop system internal. We also provide service to the terminals at the airport, as well as MDOT off of Airport Road are currently recipients of municipal water.
Thank you.
Upon that, any other questions for Ms. Nguyen, since she's here? I'd entertain a motion to move forward with the recommendation of the utilization of UIS SCADA to the tune of $39,000
$975.
$975. Is there a motion?
I'll
to
make that
effect?
motion.
We have a motion on the table. Is there support? It's been moved and supported. Further discussion?
Within our budget.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this was actually, as Ms. Nguyen had laid out, this is a capital improvement. So we are not under the auspice of them having a 5% administrative fee on this. So this is. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Polly,
Yes.
Clerk Palovich, yes. Treasurer Ellery Summers,
Yes.
Trustee Reiner.
Yes.
Supervisor Skibby.
Yes. Thank you very much, Ms. Nguyen, for your participation.
Did trustee Kroll leave the meeting?
Trustee Kroll has left the meeting.
Gotcha.
Yeah, he's left the building and the format. Moving forward in the new business, the Policy and Procedure Committee recommendations.
Yes, sir. Okay. Look where I can find. Here it is. Yeah, that's. So far.
You want my copy?
No, I should file. I might even need, no, here it is. Here it is. So, you just want the motion, don't you? It actually probably be.
You can give a synopsis of
Yeah.
the corrections.
The originally, for interviews, personnel, we had the personnel officer, a department head, a township trustee, or a representative of the clerk's office. Upon participation of at least 3 of the 4, normally to conduct interviews. There was a recommendation that we change that. What we ended up with is the following. After a second meeting, I think it was. So we proposed from the committee that the 5-4-21. Oh, no, that's not it. But anyway, is that the number? Is that the
5.8.
date? That's the date, isn't
Yeah,
it?
that was the date.
Yeah, that's, 5.8 is what it should be changed to read, the department head, along with the personnel officer, township clerk, township treasurer, or a trustee, upon participation of at least 2 of the 4, shall normally conduct interviews. If the department head is also one of the following, a supervisor, treasurer, or clerk, then such department head, along with any elected official, shall normally conduct interviews. So that's our motion from the committee.
Well, actually, we have 2, and then we have 5.22, the payroll concern.
It's just if you have a payroll problems to report it to the clerk within 30 days.
Right.
Do you want the, I
That
have it
comes
on
from
you.
you.
I have it.
Right.
Yeah. So if you want, I can cover that as being on the
Yeah,
policy and
originally it
procedure
was-
manual.
It was originally very vague as immediately, and
Yeah,
then we had 90 days. We just think 30 days is a
Yeah.
reasonable amount of time.
yeah. So the clarification in language with 5.22 with payroll problems is that instead of 90 days that it was, those issues should be resolved within 30 days. That keeps especially payroll and our books in order, and especially with our fiscal year, it's best to always close instead of having amendments. So that was the correction there, that an employee shall notify the clerk within 30 days of any problems or errors on their paycheck. A written account of the problem and its resolution shall be created by the clerk. Those are the 2. And Laura, do you have anything to add since you're still with us?
Nope, that's perfect. I'll make the motion to make those 2 changes.
Okay, we have a motion to move forward with the changes to 5.8 and 5.22 in the policy and procedure manual. Is there support?
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of amending the policy and procedure manual 5.8, 5.22 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Laura?
Sorry.
She votes on. She made the motion.
That was a bad connection. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Not- Was that an aye, Laura, just for the record?
Yeah, yes, it was.
Not your eyes. You don't need to zoom in that close. Okay.
And thank you for having me be a part of this meeting, but I also have to skip out at noon.
Okay. Well, we appreciate your time on vacation, so thank you very much. Did we take vote?
You.
You did a voice
Yeah,
vote.
Voice vote. Okay, thank you very much, Laura. Moving forward.
Yeah.
With new business, Tim, would you like to start with the introduction of ordinance 145?
Yes, this is an amendment to the zoning ordinance, the planning commission and Denise Klein are recommending. So it went through the planning commission process with a public hearing. Then it went to the county planning commission for 30-day comment period. I don't think we got any comments.
We got
from
no
them.
comments.
Okay. So now we're at the stage where we can introduce the motion or the proposed amendment. And then I arrange publication of a notice of introduction. And then at the next board meeting, the board would decide whether to finally adopt this zoning ordinance amendment. Publish notice of the adoption.
So is there a public hearing involved then? Tim?
There was at the.
There was, but-
Just the planning commission.
We don't need to have another public. hearing.
No, in the zoning enabling act says the township board can schedule another public hearing if it wishes to, which it might do with a controversial matter or something that's, you know, big public interest, but normally we wouldn't.
No.
That process has been.
And I can add to this, the reason that this amendment came up is, as zoning administrator, as I continue to work through cases, as at the last night's planning commission meeting, a question came to the scenario that brought this to the forefront in terms of atypical storage container utilization. And this kind of addresses it. So it affords me the ability to move forward with the zoning administration rather than start a process of non-conformity and then have an amendment to, and then it would be, and because we've had other issues where we don't start zoning concerns until we have clarification of language, because if we start a process and then we change the language therein, we can find ourselves in.
So is this on the floor yet for discussion?
Not yet, but we will entertain a motion to move forward with, or do you need a motion or
A motion to introduce proposed ordinance number 145.
is there a motion to that effect?
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion on the table to introduce ordinance 145.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Further discussion, trustee Reinhardt.
Yes, thanks. Just, are these the type of containers that people would use for these pods like things where people would use to transport?
Shipping container.
Shipping containers
yeah.
for their moving, if they move from one place to our.
Typically,
township or something.
there's been a relative new insurgence of utilization of shipping containers for building
Storage.
structures.
Tiny
but
houses.
Storage as well. The way the language was in our existing ordinance 142 did not really well define storage container use in residentially zoned. The only mechanisms of control that were afforded the township were a 3-year time limit and the potential of making the individual paint or screen the container, not how many they could have on a residential lot, et cetera, et cetera. So this further defines those characteristics.
So this includes vehicles and other types of things, does it not? Such as
Yeah, it's
campers and-
good, better, and different. I mean, we're trying to clean up things, and these are small little amendments as time progresses, that through the 2-year planning process of this new document that wasn't considered because it was never been an issue. Now it's becoming an issue, and if we don't have a means to have some control. So this cleans up that language and allows us to properly move forward. Trustee Fuller.
I think this is becoming a hot topic for some reason. I've got another couple of township clients that lakefront people are starting to use these as
As
storage
their sheds.
buildings, maybe even letting their guests live in them. So it's something you think you wouldn't have to deal with, but Denise and I have had to deal with them. And when you look at your ordinance, you go, oh, I guess they're not addressed, but you know, then you got neighborhood restrictions and it just snowballs. So
I'm more worried about my kids putting me out in one of these and taking whatever.
No, I think that's past year.
Oh.
So trustee Fuller.
I think what's is happening here is we're fine tuning a great document. And we got a good document to start with, but now we're find the little niches that we need to correct and take care of.
And a really beneficial thing I have in Denise Klein and NEMCOG is she's looking at other communities constantly, and then she alerts your township if
That's good.
we run into something. So yeah, she's been great.
Anything else for the good of the order before a vote? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Reiner,
Yes.
trustee Polly,
Yes.
clerk Palovich, yes. Supervisor Skibby.
Yes.
And just a clarification on that. So Tim, then this isn't the official change of the
Right.
ordinance until after we have received any public comment and then considered that, right?
It's one course with a charter township where we've got to introduce it before we can adopt it. So, right, it's not official. The board could still choose not to, and the public's free to comment.
And there's a publication involved besides the
There will be a
public.
publication, probably a little bit later this week stating that it was introduced, a summary of it, and by the way, the board's going to consider adopting it at your next meeting.
Thank you.
Moving forward, North Point Shores Special Assessment, Michelle. I see that we have at least one gentleman here, three gentlemen
More
here
than
in representation of North Point Shores Special
Brett
Assessment District.
Finzel presented me with signed petitions to continue the special assessment. Haley checked all the signatures. We do have over 50% validated signatures, so we can move forward with this. I think, Tim, you might be able to.
Sure, no, I don't mind.
Yeah.
And my partner, Dan Florup, is handling this. He's handled this special assessment project in the past. So he's familiar, very familiar with it. So today, Nathan, as a supervisor, will be certifying that a sufficient number of signatures, petitioners have asked the board to start this special assessment project. A resolution will be adopted today that complies with Act 188, the statute under which this special assessment district is instituted. And it then schedules the first public hearing where people can object to the project for your next meeting. And so, and in the meantime, a notice will be published alerting the property owners involved, and a notice will be mailed to them.
Yeah, we do
Yeah.
have them ready to mail
Yep.
out. They'll be
So,
mailed out tomorrow.
That tells them if you're going to object to this, come to your next meeting. And object. And then there will be one more public hearing. There will be a special assessment roll that gives them money amounts. And there will be one more public hearing at a later meeting for that. And after that, it starts.
In regards to this being a special assessment, Mr. Fenzel, do you have anything to address with the board? If you do, please stand to the podium and state your name for the record.
Hi, I'm Brett Finzel. I'm a resident at A266 North Point Shores, Alpena. I'm here also with Tom Greco and Joe LaFave, who are board members as well. Joe's the president of the board this year. I'm the secretary treasurer, and Tom is one of the board members. Just to kind of repeat some things that were just said, this is not a new assessment program. It's a special assessment program that we've had running. At least I've been involved since 2009. So I think I can't remember if it went before that or not. There was historically at North Point Shores, we were like many other private roads where we collected from our residents as time went on to try to make road improvements. And you collected maybe 50% of the time, if that. Some were better, some were not. We had our own grader. We would donate our time to do the grading ourselves, all those kind of things. Eventually that was just not working any longer. The road was falling into the swamp. So needless to say, we did come up with using that Public Act 139 of 1972. We came up with that with the help of the township to do our special assessment district, and we've been doing that since at least 2009, like I said. We continue to make road improvements. What we come here for you to do is, as you just mentioned, is that we did do our petitions. We did get enough people to agree. We really only, out of those that returned petitions, we only had 4, and it's actually 2 of the same families that said no. The rest of the people are all in favor of this this continued assessment and road improvement because it has been making progress. What I will say also, though, is that I did have a conversation with Michelle and Nate, and as a board, we'd like to invite, we'll invite Nate to the next board meeting, the supervisor of the next board meeting, to talk about really what are our plans with this road assessment in the future. Because we do have a road improvement program that part of these assessment dollars have been helping to pay for, where we have worked with Eagle and Corps of Engineers and the state of Michigan and lots of different people to try to clear eventually all things out of the way that we might eventually have a paved project out there. But with that said, that is something that would need to then be voted on as well. And that was voted on in 2012, where the residents voted that they would proceed ahead with us trying to make a road improvement project by doing the things necessary, everything from surveying and drawing of plans, and RS Scott and Associates have already done the first 1.5 miles on the road and design and all of that. And now they're working on the second half. The first 1.5 miles was the difficult section because it involved Eagle, DNR, protected species. There's a lot of things that had to get out of the way. So it's taken us 8 years or so to get those things out of the way. They now have a plan of how we would deal with dwarf irises and Michigan rattlers and all of that. So with that said, but what will come out of that eventually is that we will have to go back to the residents with some idea of financial of what it might cost them. Because at the time in 2012, the numbers were $16,000 per lot. So that would be $32,000 for me as an example. I cannot say whether that would be what that cost will be today. And the problem is that changes every time you talk to construction people based on price of gas and everything else. So what would happen with that is we would eventually get to the point where we bring everything forward that Mr. Straley over at RS Scott's and the construction, we either do it by a bid or we do it in a different way. But we come up with the numbers that we could present to our residents to say, this is what it would cost us, and then they would have to vote on it. And hopefully they would vote to continue with that improvement. If they voted no, they would want to continue on with this special assessment as is because it has been working, then we would probably continue to do that because it does work. Just to let, because Dan Florib did contact me on a couple of occasions, just to let you know that this does really involve lake lot owners on Lake Huron on North Point Shores Road. So there are people who will ask, well, what about the property on the opposite side of the road that is not assessed under these taxes, under this special assessment? Nor is an owner, let's say, on the first 1/4 mile before the Lafarge Gate that is not on the property, the lake side. And I understand that's based by law. That's what my understanding was, is that we could not assess those persons. So,
Well, the Public Act of 188 has some, I know in comparison to the Public Act that the County Road Commission has a little bit more of a creative
they can get a little more
aspect
creative.
to it, but there are still some standards that would have to be abided by.
And we would gladly talk about that
Oh, yeah.
when we have those conversations, what we could do. So that's all. Do my counterparts have anything that they want to speak to?
It's time of the essence.
Well, I don't know if time is of the essence by way of, it is of the essence right now for the special assessment because it's a summer assessment. So
So if we get to this for the final resolution that are
we will have,
the
there's
24th or
sufficient time.
thereabouts.
there's sufficient time to still do it if we continue
Yeah,
as Tim just said. in
Dan
our-
has it mapped out time-wise, so we're,
I've got the whole map right
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, we're-
He's got us right on a schedule
yeah,
We
so
can-
for each meeting and everything.
It was a little, I mean, I started later with the petitions and then I went away for the winter and didn't get back and presented them to Michelle just in April. So it's been a little bit, usually we're much earlier on in this process, meaning when we've done it, where we've had the petitions already signed by November and then, but it's all good.
Yep, it all came together.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Mr. Penzel. And Tim, back to the resolutions at hand.
Yeah, so it would be, and the resolution in your packet needs a correction. Michelle has the updated version.
Yeah, and I gave you the updated version in
Yeah,
your,
I have it.
and Norm, I switched yours out. It's really Russ who doesn't have the updated.
Okay.
version.
All right, yeah, paragraph
Start
5, a resolution of intent, and the last page talks about the hearing being set, that public hearing I was referring to being set for May 11th, which is today. That's changed to May 24th at 6 p.m. So, and there is an updated corrected version. So it'd be a motion to adopt a resolution of intent.
Is there a motion to that effect of moving forward with the intent of the resolution?
I'll make that
We
motion.
have a motion on the table. Is there support? Support. It's been moved and supported. Further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Reiner,
Yes.
trustee Polly,
Yes.
clerk Palovich, yes. Supervisor Skibby.
Yes. Just let me know the next time you guys kind of get together and we can start looking at long-term things, because the next item of business actually has some effect on one of the potentials that we discussed the other day, Mr. Penzel. Moving forward to the addition of, to the agenda as presented was the conflict of interest and ethics policy rider, if you will. We do have a conflict of interest and an ethics segment in our policy and procedure manual, but it does not meet the criteria for USDA rural development grants or loans. So in this instance, one of the discussions was the potential of the special assessment utilizing USDA rural development. So in order to utilize any of those monies, we have to strengthen and meet what their criteria is in terms of a conflict of interest and ethics policy. Anything to add to that?
Just that it's federal government, they've got a lengthy set of instructions and requirements, and I've been involved with a few of these, and so they fly spec them and make sure you cover all the bases. And so one of the tasks is to have a conflict of interest policy that addresses a list of items that this policy does.
Yes, Michelle.
Did this go to the policy and procedures committee?
No, this was because.
Are
the-
we,
the-
is there urgency that,
Are we replacing that section of the policy? procedures?
We,
Is that what
well, we can. The reason that this is somewhat urgent is because of the primary reason that we've started the discussions with USDA, and that's for a full meter replacement. So this is a hinge point of any continuation of discussion with our C2AE, our engineers, to fulfill the grant and loan request potentials through USDA.
I still feel it should have gone through the policy and procedures. That's just my opinion.
And we can send it back. It's just-
You're part of that committee,
I
Russ,
am part of that committee, as is Laura.
Yep.
and Nathan.
And myself.
So we had 2/3 of the committee here, and I'm willing to waive the committee review.
I guess
Get
I
this
haven't
in
even been
place.
able to read it because
Yeah.
I didn't get it until I sat
It's
down here
mostly
at the board.
financial interest, I think, and so.
Yeah.
Unlike people that are.
So I guess I-
Involved in federal government things, we can't do what they can do apparently. So some of them are medical people. So I would move to put, it's on the agenda. I would move, make a
a motion to approve this policy and include it or replace our existing conflict of interest and ethics policy with this policy. Where did this come from, Jim?
This was my drafting, taking MTA materials and other conflict of interest policies from communities around the state. And also tying it to the requirements of USDA, make sure it covered all those bases.
So I would have to divest all of my stock in a water meter company or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. Don't have anybody.
I had one where the township supervisor was going to be in the district where the sewer improvement was happening. So we had to disclose that he's going to benefit from this USDA fund improvement. We don't have that here. It's a full system meter replacement. And the policy doesn't differ from your current policy. It really supplements it, elaborates on it. So we're not changing the rules. You're bolstering them.
So you looked at our current policy when you
Yep,
drafted
yep.
this. Okay, so the point is, we're not leaving anything out by
That's right.
replacing that with this.
That's correct.
Thank you.
We have a motion on the table. Is there support? It's been moved and supported. Further discussion?
Could I just have a few minutes to actually read it?
By all means.
I'm sorry, that sounded very snippy, but I'd just like a few minutes to read it.
Section 2, it says you can't be snippy.
Oh, is that section 2?
You guys adding that in there?
Civility and respect.
I'm good.
Any further discussion? Seeing none. Roll call, since it does go, we'll be going into our policy and procedure.
Trustee Reiner,
Yes.
trustee Polly,
Yes.
clerk Palovich, yes. Supervisor Skibby.
Yes. That concludes our new business. This is the second opportunity for public comment. If there is any public comment, please stand at the podium, state your name for the record, and be limited to 3 minutes. If there's anybody online that has any public comment, please raise your hand through Zoom. Will you please unmute Larry Clark?
I was gonna
I
say,
see his
it
lips-
looks
I see
like
his lips
Larry.
Moving for a button. You might as well save some time. Mr. Clark,
Hello, how is everybody today?
splendid, and yourself?
Great, great. Well, thank you for helping with my technical difficulties. I appreciate that. Well, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak here for a minute or two about the Partridge Point Park. I heard some of the comments earlier, of course, and read the letter that was written to the township, or to the township. You know, we're very concerned too, of course, about what's going on at the Partridge Point Park with the activities out there. Unfortunately, it's been going on now for a couple of years regarding the trash and the graffiti. We have really doubled our efforts at trash cleanup. We have been picking up trash every other week since the winter was over, and in the summertime, we plan to do it every week. The other things that we've done is doubled our efforts with regard to signage. I've talked at length to Cash Kroll and Deputy Lash, and also Cody from the state police. They are all performing visits out there, patrols, both during the day and at the night to try to catch up with who's, causing some of the issues at the park, which, as was mentioned, the vandalism in terms of graffiti, broken beer bottles. We have not, I think, in all the years we've been doing this, we've found one hypodermic needle some distance from the parking lot there at Frog Lane. But nevertheless, Plowman's painted a trash can, and that's out there now. And on the positive side of this, at least in terms of trash, there is hardly no trash out there now. We're just kind of dumbfounded because there used to be a lot of trash out there. But since we put the can in, put the no trash signs up, put up some trail cameras and the police patrols, people are seeming to either take their trash with them in most cases. One of the, we've had, as you know, those of you who've been on the board for a while, we've had numerous public input sessions about this park going back to 2014. The public clearly told us that they would like to see a park on Partridge Point, some recreational enhancements actually to the whole 23 South area. That's what spurred us to move forward with this. Beckett and Rader, our landscape architect, also recommended use of a small portion of that DNR land in the area. It's been constantly covered by our media. There was just recently something that Steve Schulwitz at the Alpena News put in the paper about the vandalism, but he's been covering it for quite some time, as is WBKB. And the long and short, the other part of this is, unfortunately, there is a whole different side to the usage of this park. And that being just about every time we're out there now that the weather is halfway decent some days, there are people out there jogging and walking. I saw one couple that was picking up fossils, and it's even more so in the summertime. Of course, the park is on a number of state websites, including the US 23 Heritage Route. It does see some good usage. But we need to get our arms around this. I totally agree with the residents. And what's the solution over and above what we're doing? Well, we need to catch the offenders. Unfortunately, vandalism is going to be a really big problem, as we've witnessed in Ossining with the Dinosaur Gardens and the Sanborn Park. And we just really need to catch the ringleaders, if you will, of this. The police, Deputy Lash has stopped and talked to 2 young people that were at the park late at night and told them they'd have to move along. So we're hoping that over time, that's the word will get out about that's not the place to go to party and do drugs or any other
Mr.
issues.
Clark, would you like an extension of your time? You are at your 3-minute public comment period.
Oh, that's surprising. But yes, I would, Nathan. Thank you. If I could have another.
I'll give you 1 more minute, sir.
1 more minute. Okay. So what could help, I think, is I've been trying to reach the DNR unsuccessfully also, Cody Stevens. He's got a couple of jobs right now. It's hard to reach. But one of the thoughts that the police, Deputy Lash and I have was to close the park at dark. Put up a sign that says park closed, dusted on, or something similar. And hopefully that would help. But of course, we are open to any suggestions that the township has and the DNR has. I would be interested to know how the DNR handles this on their other properties. They like to keep them open to the public. Okay, that's it.
Thank you very much for your comments, sir.
Okay, any
Is
questions?
there any other public comment? Yes.
Russ Rich again, that lives out on Partridge Point. I think Mr. Clark misses the whole point, the garbage at the park may be gone, but now it's strewing up and down our road. The traffic that comes and goes out there now is dangerous for kids, for pets. And in my opinion, the solution is to close it down, put it back the way it was when people enjoyed it out there. And it would get all the traffic out of our neighborhood. I don't know who they talked to or who was in their focus group, but when it was presented to us, it was US 23 and the 45th parallel is where a park was going. Then just out of the blue, it appeared out on the end of Partridge Point Road. So I think either intentionally or unintentionally, the residents out there were deceived, thinking that it was a South Corridor project along 23 coming into Alpena. And that's not what it turned out to be. So my recommendation is to close the park. The alternative would be to gate it off at night, I guess, but that still doesn't alleviate the garbage along the road, and it doesn't alleviate the people driving crazy up and down a residential street. So you can only put so much on law enforcement, you know, they can't be at every park in the county all the time. So just a recommendation to close the park. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rich. Is there any other public? Yes, Mr. Virgo.
Name's Al Wargo. I've talked to Mr. Clark several times on the phone, and he seems to have the same answers for everything, every time you call him. And, you know, like you said, he doesn't understand what's going on out there, not at all. I don't think anybody would like it if they lived on a road and all of a sudden somebody put something half-mile down the road that nobody wanted in the first place, nobody on the road. You go down the whole road, nobody wants this. And I walk this road every day. I don't see there, you know, he went out there and seen a person collecting fossils. Come on now. I can go out there and collect a lot of things. And don't tell me you don't see no needles out there. Well, then obviously he hasn't been going out there. But I see him every day. I walk it. I'm there. He's not. And he seems to have the same, every time you talk to him, it's the same thing. It's nothing but, oh, he wants to better it's gonna all about tourism and all this stuff. We don't want tourism on Partridge Point. We don't care about that or what are, you know, we don't want the people out there, period. Not troublemakers running up and down the road and causing all kinds of trouble. It's a hazard. And it always will be if that park stays open. And now they already ruined it. I mean, the kids are gonna go there now regardless because they know it's a safe haven to go. And it's not up to the police to patrol this. They want a park. Like I said, he lives on Bear Point. Put it on the end of his road. There's a place out there. Let's see how he likes it. That's my answer to the whole thing. You got to shut this place down. It's not working. And we're tired of it. I can take you out there right now and show you tires that were thrown in the ditch on my other property down the road. What am I supposed to do with them? Yeah, they're cleaning up the park, but they're not cleaning up all the way to 23. It's just not gonna work. It needs to be shut down and immediately. Or we'll have to go other ways to do it, but you're gonna shut it down one way or the other. I mean, people has had it. That's enough of that.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Virgo. Any other public comment? Is there any public comment online before we move forward with the agenda? Seeing none, discussion amongst the board. Yes, Michelle.
I just have a question about the park. Who does own that land?
Michigan Department of Natural Resources. Mr. Virgo, we're actually we have a point of contact. Your public comments were definitely heard loud and clear. Cody Stevens is the point of contact for property development and acquisitions for this region. So. And
I don't have
as
any comment at this-
liaison, I mean,
yeah, I
I
know.
think that this will be something that you.
I've got the
take.
message, but you know, I mean, there's also got to be a realization that this is public land. So, you know, there's a balancing here that has to be looked at. It's only because South Corridor Group did something there that the DNR obviously gave permission to do that created now what appears to be a public nuisance. But I also know that people live
having lived in Rogers City in the past, people live along the state park up there, you know, if your home is near public lands, you're subject to poachers and trespassers and all sorts of things that can happen. I've had it happen in properties that I lived on, where, and so, and Mr. Virgo's right. This was an unknown piece of public land that now is known. So unfortunately, the cat's out of the bag, right? It'll be interesting to see how this ends, but I think Mr. Stevens and the DNR has to have some input in this. Are there any other discussion?
No, I was just curious.
I
to who
wonder if the
actually owned it.
DNR, for example, would be able to relinquish this to private property owners.
Well, the DNR has offered to relinquish this to the Charter Township of Alpena just about every single year that we've been in office.
I think
And
we've already
and
decided we
and
don't
I
want it.
I have politely declined such a gracious offer. If there's no other discussion amongst the board, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make that motion.
We have a motion to adjourn. Is there support?
I'll support that.
It's been moved and supported. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose the same. Meeting adjourned at 12:35. Thank you very much.